Sorry for the delay, everybody. We're just getting some board members with some tech problems on board. I'd like to open the public section of the Ridgefield Park Board of Education meeting for February 15th, 2023. The time is 7:47, and we'll start with a flag salute. Can I please have a roll call? Can I get a motion to open?
I make a motion.
That's Brian Cooney.
Okay, for a roll call, Mr. Cooney,
Here.
Mr. Cathcart? Oh, he's not, he's, Mrs. Kraft? Here. Mr. Phytros?
Here.
Mr. Gomes?
Here.
Mrs. McNeil?
Here.
Mrs. Rodriguez?
Here.
Mrs. Velez?
Here.
Mrs. Orth?
Here.
And President Martinez?
Here.
Okay, the Open Public Meetings Act statement. The New Jersey Open Public Meetings Law was enacted to ensure the right of the public to have advance notice of and to attend the meetings of the public bodies at which any business affecting their interests is discussed or acted upon. In accordance with the provisions of this act, the Ridgefield Park Board of Education has caused notice of this meeting to be published by having the date, time, and place thereof posted in the Bergen Record, Star Ledger, Municipal Building, Board of Education offices, and district website. Public participation instructions. Public participation will be conducted both in person and virtually through Zoom. All public will be muted throughout the meeting. Public participation comments are limited to 5 minutes. The public will be able to both speak and be seen by the board when participating virtually or telephonically via Zoom. Individuals participating virtually that wish to make comments during public participation will need to raise their hand by clicking the blue hand icon at the bottom of their Zoom window. Individuals participating by telephone that wish to make comments during public participation will need to hit *9 on their telephone to raise their hand. The Business Administrator Board Secretary will then unmute individuals one at a time to speak in the order that their hand was raised.
Thank you. Can I get a motion to move the minutes? Jody, you made eye contact. Jody, can you move the minute?
I make a motion to move minutes.
Second.
No, I amended it. Second was Brian. Yeah. I'd like to make a motion to amend the minutes of December 21st, 2022 to include the letter from our state monitor, Mr. Egan, regarding the pre-K assistant director position.
Second.
Okay, are there any questions on any of the minutes? Okay, we'll vote on the amendment then. Mr. Cooney?
Yes.
Mrs. McNeil?
Yes.
Mr. Cathcart? Is he on? No. Mrs. Kraft?
Yes.
Mr. Phytros?
Yes.
Mr. Gomes?
Yes.
Mrs. Rodriguez?
Yes.
Ms. Velez?
Yes.
Mrs. Orth?
Yes.
And President Martinez.
Yes.
Okay, that's the vote to amend December 21st. Now we need a motion.
I have a motion again to move on the minutes.
Motion to move the minutes.
Second.
Ms. Velez?
Yes.
Mr. Cooney?
Yes.
Mrs. Kraft?
Yes.
Mr. Phytros?
Yes.
Mr. Gomes?
Yes.
Mrs. McNeil?
Yes.
Mrs. Rodriguez?
Yes.
Mrs. Orth?
Yes.
And President Martinez.
Yes.
Motion's passed.
I have some communications that came to the board on 129. Jenny Schmidt sent the board a letter regarding our masking policy. On 27, Ms. Kalinovich sent the board a letter regarding the pre-K expansion program with the co-op. And on 28, Mr. Delia sent the board a letter regarding Dr. Bender and our superintendent search. We're going to do committee reports. Trustee Rodriguez, if you could do policy.
Thank you. The policy committee met on January 30th, 2023 at 8 p.m. and it ended at 9:40. Dr. Angela Bender, Superintendent of School, Dr. Ricardo Martinez, Board President, Trustee Berlinda Rodriguez, myself, Committee Chair, Trustee Michelle Orth, Committee Member were in attendance, and also Mrs. Velez and Board Attorney David Zisler. We discussed the NJSBA policy audit. The recommendation was to continue to utilize Strauss-Esme. Dr. Bender will have Karen to reach out to Strauss-Esme to explore the possibility of an audit. Also, we discussed the use of facility schedule, District Policy 5111, eligibility of residents, non-resident students, District Policy 8660, transportation by private vehicle. And also we discussed developing a formal description for our policy committee. The tentative date for our next policy meeting, it will be February 27th. Tentative agenda items will be Policy Administration 1648.11. Also, Policy 9140, which is Citizen Advisory Committees. Thank you.
Thank you. Finance and Insurance, Mr. Gomes.
Thank you. Finance Committee met on February 7th. All members were present. We discussed creating a mission statement, which is still in process. We also discussed the current status of the audit. Auditors are wrapping up the audit and will present their findings once they have completed the process. So far, we have not been given any areas of concern. The one area of concern from the last audit was stale checks. And under resolution today is to have some checks either reissued or be written off because they were never cashed. We also discussed the budget calendar. The BA and the administration is in the process of preparing the budget for next year. However, this budget will be subject to revision since the governor may not release his numbers at the time that we need to release our budget. With respects to insurance, our insurance premiums will be going up. It's still unclear exactly what the amounts will be. But for general liability, it's possibly to be at least a 6% increase. And then possibly for healthcare, maybe a 15% increase in insurance. We also discussed the early childhood program. The members of the finance committee felt that it would be great if we can have a presentation either to the finance committee or to the entire board by the co-op program of their budget. So we'll be reaching out to them for that. Finally, Mrs. Grabstein took the initiative and applied for a FEMA grant. We were awarded $116,000 in FEMA funding. Thank you, Mrs. Grabstein.
You're very welcome.
These funds will be used to offset some of the expenses for the overtime during the COVID, such as sanitizing the buildings after students return. She's also going to apply for additional FEMA grants that are available. Thank you.
Thank you for that report. Faculty and programs, Trustee Kraft.
Good evening. The Faculty and Programs Committee met on February 9th. Present were Dr. Bender, myself, Trustee Rodriguez, Trustee Gomes. We had the pleasure of having our instructional coaches at the elementary level, Ms. Laura Wood and Ms. Simone Anelian present on a sneak peek into our elementary classrooms. Some of the topics they shared with the committee members were best practices and innovation technology in the elementary classroom. They talked about their goal of creating a climate that is safe, nurturing, and adventurous for our elementary students. They did a comparison of education in the past and in the future by comparing instructional practice, whole group instruction versus small group instruction. They gave us a very in-depth portrait of a graduate, talked about project-based learning and an inquiry approach to learning, talked a little bit about the difference between guided math and whole group instruction in the math classroom. They discussed their professional development plan with teachers, their coaching plan, and their monthly workshops moving forward. Some additional items discussed were the criteria and screening for the gifted and talented program. Trustee Rodriguez led that charge and talked about what we're doing moving forward to discuss the criteria moving forward. We also discussed ELL students and what best practice would be considered for our ELL learners with regards to sheltered instruction. And we were pleased to hear that that is a work in progress and a conversation that is very forthcoming in the district. We discussed a preschool program. We are still seeking answers about who, in fact, is taking the charge with the preschool program and who we should be directing our questions to, as we don't have a formal plan as a board as of yet. So we're hoping to get some clarity on that tonight. Dr. Bender also spoke about some future considerations for some pathways for high school students in the medical sciences field, in addition to getting some additional space to possibly implement an 18 to 20-year-old program in the district. We plan on meeting every Tuesday of the month, moving forward to discuss our mission statement and agenda items moving forward for programs and instruction in the district.
Thank you. Awesome report. Buildings and grounds.
Currently, buildings and grounds, we have not met yet, but we have a meeting scheduled for tomorrow.
Personnel.
Personnel also hasn't met, but we have a meeting scheduled next Wednesday.
Thank you. For the superintendent search negotiations, I'm sorry.
No worries. We also have not yet met. We do have a committee meeting scheduled for the 22nd and a meeting with the NJEA scheduled for the 27th.
Thank you. The other standing committee that was formed is the Superintendent Search Committee, and I wanted to give an update on that committee since there is an agenda item on here. I want to tell the public that the board has, as you know, decided to do a comprehensive superintendent search. The process thus far has been that we put together a request for proposal that was sent out to many firms across the state, or several firms across the state. From them, we received 4 applications for this process. And after screening based on our request for proposals, 2 of these firms met the criteria that we had. To be clear, the criteria that we had was very, very stringent. In fact, our state monitor gave us much good advice with regards to his concerns that it might be too stringent. We requested that firms had found several superintendents in New Jersey, that they had several reference letters. We were pretty exhaustive in that process. The two firms that did meet the minimum criteria, we sent out, Trustee Orth put together a scoring rubric. That rubric was sent out to all the non-conflicted board members, who each scored these two firms based on, I guess it was probably 20 items, maybe more, about 20 different items. From them, we came out with HYA as the superintendent search firm that we're going to be using. Anybody's welcome to look them up online. The process going forward will be that once this resolution is adopted tonight, HYO will come in, they will interview the board members individually and as a group. They will send out a community survey, by community meaning all the stakeholders that we identify. So parents will get the survey, teachers, administration will get the survey, the town officials will get the survey. They all get to chime in on what they would like the superintendent, the leader of this district to look like, not physically, but in terms of qualifications. From that process, a profile is developed, and then we begin to advertise for the position of superintendent's district. Throughout the entire process, whether it's interviews, we will be as transparent as we can, given the privacy of the candidates, to make sure that this process is above board. One of the reasons the board, and I welcome anybody else to chime in on this. One of the reasons that we're going to go in this process is that the history of Ridgefield Park leads us to believe that whoever's going to be the next leader of this district needs to have the trust of the public. And to assure that, the board is going to make sure that we do an exhaustive search, that we don't just pick or send out a kind of small net as we have done in the past in this district, and that qualified candidates come from all over the state. My hope, and please chime in the rest of the board, my hope is that whoever is chosen for this position at the end of this process, that the public can be assured that this person was given this position because this particular board felt that they were the best qualified for this job. I don't know if anybody else on the board wants to chime in about their perspective about the process. So that's the process. So monthly, I'll be giving updates on the superintendent search process. Thank you. Superintendent's report? Oh. Okay.
Gotta hold it. I'm going to start with our student reps. Thank you.
Good evening. I am one of your student representatives. My name is Gabriela Gutierrez Salazar, the senior class president. I would like to highlight that 4 student government officers, Alexis Baliu, Gary Bandari, Ashley Montoya, and I showed appreciation toward our crossing guards for ensuring our safety and easing our anxiety when crossing the road. We visited all the crossing guards in Ridgefield Park and handed them a warm cup of coffee and donuts of their choice. We attempted to express the student body's immense gratitude for the generous acts of their service, and for that, I say thank you very much to crossing guards. And I would also like to add that the student government presidents and I all meet every month for the advisory committee, which we just formed recently. And it involves me and other presidents in student government, where we discuss the student concerns with Assistant Principal, Mr. Comurray. And yeah, and then Ashley wants to say something.
Hello. Today I would like to highlight a special social emotional learning club. The Social Justice Issues SEL Forum is a non-judgmental, safe space where students can come to discuss social justice issues important to them. Mr. Maggio, the Sociology and History of Intolerance and Prejudice teacher, leads this Social Justice Issue Forum, where he typically proposes a thought-provoking question. The most recent being, what group in our society do you feel is met with the most tolerance? Additionally, the topic of colorism, effects on races and ethnicities was addressed. These rather sensitive topics are presented to students who want to express their opinions in an appropriate and understanding environment. Clubs such as these create a learning opportunity for students to research and voice their opinion in an appropriate manner with serious social issues we are most likely to face once we leave these doors. Furthermore, it develops the student's responsibility to respect another's opinion, even if it's not similar to theirs. Those are the 19 students that regularly attend those meetings.
Thank you, ladies. Before I begin my superintendent report, I would like to take this opportunity to thank some folks here. Are you able to hear me now? Okay. Before I begin my superintendent report, I would like to take this opportunity to say it's really nice to be back. I've been busy catching up with administrators, teachers, staff, and it's been an actual pure joy to see our students in action. I would be remiss if I didn't thank all of those who reached out to me upon my return with your kind words of encouragement and appreciation. Your nice to see you, welcome back, and hugs with winks all mean a lot to me. Finally, I would like to take this opportunity to thank the board. Now, we have a presentation that's really exciting from Mrs. Joan Carlson and Miss Cody and Miss Ramba.
Good evening. Hello, can you hear me? No. Can you all hear me? Before I do the presentation, I just want to take 2 minutes out to let you know what's going on in your district. Grant School, with the thanks to Mrs. Roman, sold flags to the students. So the students purchased flags and put them all around the courtyard on Henry Street. They paid $1 per flag. That money was donated to the VFW, and we in turn donated it to the VFW National Home in Michigan that takes care of families of children of deployed and veterans. They will give us, they will have a brick made and put on their property that will thank the students of Ridgefield Park's Grant School for helping the military families. That's quite a tribute to Mrs. Roma and Ms. Fernandez. Where is she? Hernandez, come on up. Because we all know nothing gets done without the principals. Okay. So thank you both. Grant School is my alma mater and my mother's. So I am proud to say it's the most, as of right now, it's the most patriotic school in town. Thank you both.
Our pleasure.
I don't go away.
Okay.
Okay. Okay. Now, I have 2 presentations that we do every year that Ms. Roma helps us out with. It's called the Patriots Pen. It's an essay contest sponsored by the VFWs throughout the nation. They wrote this year on my pledge to veterans. And I have 2 winners, Manuela Padilla and from Grant School, and Carissa Mendoza from Roosevelt. Chiara, I can't see. And may I have,
Are they here?
and
Here?
may I have the principal from Roosevelt and the students? Mr. Carter, it's got to be here someplace. Okay.
Roosevelt School is Kiara Mendoza.
Chiara. Congratulations. And I want to thank Mrs. Roma for continuing this and the support of both principals for allowing it to happen in their schools. Congratulations to you. Continue. Don't go away. And Mandela, I can't pronounce the name. From Grant School. Congratulations. We have a lot of patriotic people in this town. They just need to come out and say it. And if it wasn't for Mrs. Roma and principals, none of you would even know it. So please encourage them to do this. Encourage all the schools to get flags, to put them around. And for $100, they can also have a brick put in the National Home, but the money goes to help children of veterans. Thank you. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm used to having my brother, the commander here, but he's in Florida while I do all the work. The contributions to the girls are a $50 check from the men and a $50 check from the women. So they each got $100 for their essay. Okay, am I done? Thank you, I'm done.
Can we get a picture before you sit back down?
Oh, also the teachers for helping them out, because if the teachers didn't give their time to help the students, nothing would get done. And this was done all over the county. And Ridgefield Park is one of the biggest participants. Some counties sent in one for the whole town. So this is something to be proud of. What else I missed?
No, that's it.
Okay,
Thank you, Joan.
thank you. You don't have to say nothing.
You don't have to say
Take
anything.
a-
We're just gonna take pictures. Just take. And go around and take a picture. Yeah.
Watch your footing, okay?
Oh, before I come myself.
I'm gonna give you mine, right? Yeah, you're leaning on me. You got this.
What do you want me to take? Mm-hmm.
Dr. Bender, can I just piggyback on that presentation and make a formal request that
Please do.
we, there are two holidays in this town that are very poorly attended, and that's Veterans Day and Memorial Day. There are services that happen right outside, right on Mount Vernon by the church. And it would be nice if the school made it a policy or a practice that we send kids there, that we send some of our singers there, that we show up to honor our veterans who are oftentimes there by themselves. It's really bad luck. Thank you.
Absolutely. Next, I have Ms. Grandov. I don't know where you are. There you are. Come on up, please. Under the advisement of Ms. Grandov, this year's team participated in a regional competition at Ramapo High School. That's our Academic Decathlon. And now we have, I'm going to let you continue. Our students, I have their certificates.
Okay, actually. Okay, so for those of you who are unfamiliar with Academic Decathlon, it's an annual high school academic competition with 7 subjects focusing on a chosen topic. And this year it was the American Revolution. So most of the topics revolve around that. The 7 topics are mathematics, literature, social science, science, music, art, economics, and the students take multiple choice tests in each subject area, and they also compete in speeches, interviews, and essay writings. So we have a few of our students did really well at the competition. Okay, so the first student is Vicky Lynn, who won the bronze medal for mathematics. Over here or up here or? Okay, then Derek Martinez, who earned a silver medal in mathematics. And he was also the highest scoring decathlete at the scholastic level. All right, Maria Musoni, who got the silver medal in the essay. Gauri Bandari, she was our highest scoring decathlete at the honors level. The next decathlete actually cannot be here tonight because he's at his last senior track meet, but he won a whole list of them, so I will announce them. Eric Ocampo, he won the gold in mathematics, science, music, as well as the silver in social science, art, and language and literature. So. All right, and last but not least, the winning medals is Stephen Jerez, who won the bronze medal in music and social science, the gold medal in speech, and he was the highest scoring decathlete at the varsity level, and he was our team MVP as well. And I'd like to call the rest of the decathletes up as well. Come on up.
Yep. Together. Students, formers first, the 3rd row in front. One moment.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so recently, all 3 elementary schools had an assembly that was sponsored by our Ridgefield Park DPW. entitled The Illusion Maker, an environmental assembly and dance. I have seen this firsthand and its successes. I want to give a big, big thank you to our Ridgefield Park DPW. Thank you so much. They provide that annually, and I know it's a fantastic time for our students. Kindergarten registration will be open March 1st of this year, and it will begin online. There's a resolution P1306. I need to make a recognition. I would like to thank Ms. Stephanie von Rudenberg for all of her hard work and dedication to our children. I know she worked tirelessly to provide all she could to each and every one of them. Mr. Hayes will be replacing her. He began his career in education here in RP in 2009. 14 years ago, I had the pleasure of having him as a student teacher in Miss Ramba's kindergarten classroom. I have watched him personally. I've watched him grow into a wonderful professional in education. His knowledge base, yes, go ahead, give him an applause. His knowledge base regarding special services and is an extensive one, and he has served in the district in many capacities. Welcome to this new level of position. Thank you, Mr. Hayes. And that concludes my report.
The state monitor's report, please.
Good evening, all. My report's going to cover a couple of topics. One is the financial condition of the district. The audit, the district audit conducted by the certified public accountants as for the as of June 30th of 2022. I'll touch on that. I'm going to touch on the early childhood, and then also the superintendent search, and then finally the possibility of a new program. So beginning with the present, dealing with the business office, with the business administrator, and reviewing conversations and reviewing documents. The district definitely has sufficient funds to finish the year without any reductions and or problems. As far as the audit of the 2022 year, we met with the auditors, with the superintendent, and with the business administrator, and without revealing all the details, I can assure you that the financial status of the district is in very, very good hands, and we're moving forward. And we made arrangements for the auditor or the representative of the auditor firm to come to our next board meeting to give the public a review of what they did, and to present it to the board for their recognition that the audit has been completed. With regard to the early childhood, as you know, I'm only been assigned to this district for a short period of time, but I can say this, that the budget that was put in, and the request for the funds for next year, after July 1st, going into basically September, we won't know the exact numbers until after the governor gives his budget report, which we anticipate by the end of this month or by the first week in March. And one of the significant elements of that proposal or estimate was the establishment of 3 additional classes in Ridgefield Park. Right now we just have the one place, and they have room for additional classrooms, but I don't know if they, at this point, I've been led to believe they don't have room for 3 classrooms to be in operation by September. And we can't authorize money to have those physical, how can I say, work that had to be done to establish those classrooms until after the governor makes his speech. With regard to the superintendent search, I fully support it. I talked with the board about it. I had some questions. That's all been resolved, and that'll be going forward. The last item I have is a new program. I'm the state monitor assigned to another district, and in that district, and it took over a year and a half to get it established, but and that is to try and create a new program, which would be an ROTC program for high school kids, both from all kids that attend the high school, to establish that ROTC program. It just in the previous district, we finally got it successful, but it was only for like in the beginning for maybe 50 to 60 slots, but we had over 250 kids apply for the program with the total support of their families, and it's just a high school program. It does not require any commitment for future responsibility or obligation to the military, but it's a good teaching program in my opinion. But that's what I'm going to be pursuing, and also that would before anything like that comes to fruition, the entire board would be briefed on all the details, as well as the general public. That ends my report. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Egan. I'd like to move to citizens' comments.
Can I just ask a clarifying question?
Yes, of course.
Do we have a point person for the preschool program as of yet? Because we still don't know as a board, as a new board member, I don't know who to direct my questions to. So who is charged with overseeing the preschool grant and program and plan moving forward?
Well, technically right now, the person that's in charge of the whole program is in charge of curriculum. I inserted myself to make sure that because it's a lot of money, that the money's coming in, to make sure that it's appropriated in the right direction. And as I just mentioned in my report, what I want to ensure is that the total amount of money that was requested, that we can apply and use it efficiently. And the biggest question I have is, for instance, the budget that was requested would entail having 3 additional classrooms, which is an additional 45 kids. And then who's going to teach that, where it's going to be, because we still have to obviously have these programs in Ridgefield Park as opposed to going to any other town. So
Am I correct in hearing that it's Dr. Haynes, who is the curriculum and instruction director, or that who's tasked with overseeing this program?
As it is right now, he was the one that initially signed off on the budget that went in as a proposed budget to the state. So everything is going to go through him right now, but I've involved myself in this to make sure that.
So if we, as a board, if we wanted a plan specifying what the plan is moving forward with regards to everything that you just mentioned financially, and if the co-op or anybody else reaches out to the board for questions, or the public has questions, we should direct them to Mr. Haynes. Am I
Well,
hearing that
but-
correctly?
No, right, he's on paperwork for everything right now. However, the whole budget was submitted months ago, almost a year ago, that the board approved. So, and we're locked into the funding. So based upon the funding, that's how we're gonna move forward, and we're gonna know what the funding is within a couple of weeks. And then.
I think, Mr. Egan, the question that we have is not
Who's
necessarily,
talking to me? I'm sorry, who's
Um,
talking to me? I'm sorry.
it's Diane McNeil.
Okay, hi, Dave. Okay,
Hey, I think the question is not just the, application for the grant and where we're going to go with the next 3 classrooms, but there's a program that is in progress running today, and the oversight of that program, and the communication with the program, whose responsibility is that? And is that the director of curriculum's responsibility?
well, that's a good question, but I'm not sure if I understand what has to be done right now. That it has to be, everything's going to hinge upon what the governor comes out with.
Right,
I
for
would-
go forward, but for the 15 students that we have and the program that's underway to ensure it's running according to the standards that are required by the state, and that this board entrusted someone to run.
Thank you. I'll tell you this right now. That program in co-op with the 15 kids will not be changed. It'll be enhanced. What I envision is that an additional class would be there.
Excuse me,
Bring
Mr.
it up to
Egan.
30 kids.
This is Michelle Orth speaking.
Okay,
I think our concern as a board is more than just the grant and the financial aspects of running this program. There are still many outstanding questions that need to be addressed with this program that haven't been addressed. And now we don't even know who to
excuse me.
ask those questions to.
Okay, let me, because once again, I'm a new kid on the block. What are the questions?
I sent a 2-page email detailing my
Oh,
concern.
no, yes, and I saw that, and you did a great job with that. And I think you and I spoke briefly upon that a while ago, it was based upon the whole program, and that whole program was, how many pages was that you reviewed? Hundreds.
Upwards of 50.
Yeah, so, and there were questions that you had in there which were absolutely correct about, correct me if I'm wrong, my memory, was that, for instance, what were the, requirements and qualifications of the teachers? Did they had, or people, they had to have like 3 years or, experience in it?
Yeah, there were, many detailed questions
Right. So that's
related
all-
to the program, which, I didn't anticipate getting an immediate answer to, but at this point, they've been outstanding for quite some time, and we don't even have anybody assigned to look into it.
Well, okay, that's a fair question. The issue is that we as a team are saddled by what was submitted before I got here. And that is, and a lot of it has to do with money, and it's the budget that they requested, which I totally support the total amount of money, and it's just going to be, how do we apply it? Now, it's your technical question you have about, which I agree with, which is the requirement of the grant with regard to the qualifications of the people involved in it. That's going to be addressed.
I guess, can I just clarify maybe for the board? Mr. Egan, what I'm hearing is that on the financial side, if there are any questions about not just the co-op, but any type of expansion, you and by proxy, our BA will be handling those questions.
Yes.
And that if it's on the instruction side or on the safety side, that this falls on the Director of Curriculum's lap. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
I think that concluded the state monitor's report. Okay. So we're going to move to citizens' comments on agenda. And Trustee Gomes, Rodriguez.
For tonight's meeting, there will be 2 public comment sessions, one on agenda and one off agenda items. There is a sign-up sheet on the podium. We'll call your name in the order that you signed in. Each member of the public will have 5 minutes to speak during each comment period. Time cannot be transferred to other individuals. The public comment period will be 1 hour for on-agenda items and 1 hour for non-agenda items. Thank you.
And if I can just ask, Ms. Kelly, Dave Cathcart has not. Oh, that's him? Okay, thank you.
I'm here.
Oh, hi, Dave. Ms. Gottlieb?
Hi, Leslie Gottlieb, 464A Liberty Street, Little Ferry. 2 quick questions. I was reading the first one, the superintendent search. Is the goal of the search to have someone in place by the end of Dr. Bender's contract or the start of the school year? Is that the timeline?
Yes, I believe so.
Okay, and that should be sufficient time to allow everything to be done?
It's an aggressive timeline, but we hope to meet that deadline.
Okay. Second question, kind of random, but I was reading over the list of conferences that people were going to that get approved by the board. And there was a conference that had something to do with superintendents. And it sounded like Dr. Hayes was still going, which seemed kind of odd. It was like in May. I don't remember the name of the conference. It was on the list of the approvals. I don't know if they just never changed his name or if he's still going, but it just seemed kind of odd.
I can comment on that, Ms. Gottlieb. That's also for folks that are aspiring superintendents as well.
Oh, okay.
It has a compass of different categories that they address during those meetings.
Oh, okay. Wasn't
Thank you.
sure. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Gottlieb. Ms. DeSantis? Mr. Rafferty, I got you. Right you in.
Susan DeSantis, 15 Homestead Place. Welcome back, Dr. Bender. It's good to see you. I will start with 1119. I'd like to say I've personally witnessed 4 superintendent searches. The first was Dr. Reitmeyer. He was from the outside, and he was hired by a 5-4 vote of the board, and the man was incredible as superintendent, bringing this district to the top 10 in the state. We haven't had anyone near his vision or capabilities until Angela Bender. Dave suddenly died, and the next search took a year and brought us Irene Binfatti, again from the outside. In her interview, she was incredible. It was thought she was going to pick up where Dave Reitmeyer left off. She turned out to be Barry Haynes, only much more personable and more interactive with the parents, community, and certain staff members. Under Irene, we also had a mass exodus of teachers and staff. It wasn't until one of the teachers here in the high school took a chance and pulled Ed aside and told him what was going on internally. She was ripping this district apart. She was told there would be a vote of no confidence, and if she didn't resign, the board negotiated a contract, negotiated a buyout. Next, we went outside and hired Dr. Richardson. Ironically, he had been a candidate when the board previously hired Dr. Reitmeyer. He brought in the corruption we're still dealing with today. Then it was handed to his son-in-law, which just was a continuation of everything that had happened. When he resigned as superintendent, in came Marquez, an interim, again from the outside, a very capable and nice man who kept the status quo as an interim is hired to do. The community went through a 2-year fight to get the board to give Dr. Bender the job. And thanks to the community and Ron Hidalgo, we finally succeeded, and the board appointed her as acting superintendent, and within a matter of months gave her the contract and the position. Dr. Bender was doing an excellent job at being the kind of superintendent that Dave Reitmeyer had been. She turned even the most ardent naysayers into supporters. She was connected to the parents and the community. She was improving the curriculum while also bringing in new innovative curriculum and programs. She had an open door policy, connected to the staff, hired new capable administrators in all 4 schools, rose to every issue dealing with COVID while dealing with a board that harassed her and undermined her at every turn. Then over the objection of the community with hundreds of people present and vehemently objecting to the board, suspending her with pay to get her out of the way and install Barry Haynes, who basically ran this place like a prima donna, refused to communicate to parents and staff while delegating everything to others because of his incapability to run the district. Aside from that fact, Dr. Bender could have quietly negotiated a buyout and moved on. She put her entire career on the line because she couldn't in good conscience walk away and leave the education of all of our students to these people. My point is this: excellent superintendents are very hard to come by. Angela Bender has proved to be one of those rare superintendents that purpose and agenda is completely about the education of the students, providing improvement and new opportunities for them, collaborating with staff, addressing the needs and concerns of the parents, students, and staff. A superintendent that is very good at her job and has an amazing vision for this district going forward. Losing her would be a travesty to this district. The odds are very slim that we will get as good or better. We know what we have in her as a superintendent, and when you have one of those rare superintendents, to my mind, you don't take chances and look for someone better. There's a reason why so many districts in Bergen County are looking for superintendents right now. I also think going out to search for another superintendent is overlooking the desperate need for stability and the education of the students in this district, not to mention the ongoing cost of the litigation and the additional cost of the search. By reinstating her, you've given the district back stability after 17 months of a nightmare and the loss of 57 employees. The staff, parents, and community breathed a sigh of relief, only to find out the board is not settling the lawsuit and giving her another contract. Searching for another superintendent does little more than continue to destabilize our district and waste taxpayer money on a continued suit and now the added expense of a superintendent search when we have an excellent superintendent already. Why would you want to continue to destabilize it with a search for a complete unknown? Through the election process, we collectively and overwhelmingly as a community have spent the past 2 years attempting to reverse what the board did on June 23rd, 2021. It wasn't to put Dr. Bender in place for 4 months and try to find someone else to fill her shoes. It's been repeatedly requested at meeting after meeting to return her to her position, settle the suit, and let her continue what she began. Tonight, I presented the past petitions as a reminder of the support she has in our district, and overwhelmingly it turned as a reminder of the support she has in our district, and a petition we began but didn't see the need to continue with the board was overwhelmingly overturned last November's election. Then June 23rd, 2021 meeting is also on YouTube if you'd like to listen to what the community has to say. Resolution 3202, the resignation. I'm sorry to see Ms. von Rudenberg is still going to leave. And Resolution 1306, John Hayes. I think you made a very good choice, Angela. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Santos.
Janet Malul, 163 East Grand Avenue. Let me just start by saying it's wonderful seeing Dr. Bender back where she belongs. I'm not sure which resolution or whatever you guys call it, it's under on the board agenda, because I find it really hard to follow. But I did skim it and I found that the search company is Hazard, Young and Atea, or HYA. So I just quickly Googled them. And it's scary what just came up. Waste of time and money. Locals rage as education consultants cash in on, oh, come on. Cash in on pointless school superintendent search. Maryland's largest school district paid an out-of-state consulting firm tens of thousands of dollars to conduct a nationwide search for its superintendent. And evidently, they were not happy. And the firm billed the district $52,500 plus travel expenses to find the next county's superintendent. And the article goes on, and it's not a positive article. I go back to another one. And this is for the same one, another this school district hires search firm with history of bad picks. There's another one in another area, I think this was Nebraska, that says Lincoln is paying a shockingly terrible company tens of thousands of dollars. So this is kind of reminding me of when you brought up the idea of, I forget the name of the person, but that would be a grant writer that had no grant writing history of value and was really more of a supervisor for an elementary program that was family owned. I really have a hard time as I'm reading through this, and there's nothing good. There's also one where he hired somebody that had a history of, I think it was child pornography. I mean, another one that said the search brought unqualified people that didn't have the right credentials for the jobs. So why are we wasting money again on something like this? Put an ad in the local, in the online, what is it, Indeed or whatever, LinkedIn. Star Ledger is a huge one for educational. I'm at a loss. I am so baffled by this. I'm truly at a loss for words tonight. I think you're making a very big mistake if this is the company you're going with. And I really think that everybody sitting up there needs to truly look on your own and research this company. This can't be the best company out there if you insist on doing a superintendent search and paying for an outside company. And I have to piggyback on what Susan said. Since Reitmeyer, the only decent and superintendent that I think is going to carry us anywhere is Angela. The ones in between have been a horror. And I remember when my husband sat on that board in the early years and Ben Faddy was, this wonderful person coming in after the untimely passing of Dr. Reitmeyer. And for a while, it was actually, the district was run by Mr. Weber, who was the BA at the time. So for those of you that aren't familiar with all the history that went back at that time, very trying time for this district, but they still took their time. And when they hired who they hired, it was a disaster. So that's the first, to me right now, the most important thing is, if this is the company you're going with, then I have to say, if you have all voted for this company, if you do vote for this company tonight, I unfortunately am losing very big faith in this board, because this is not what this district deserves. Somebody that has all these negative comments on it. And when I scroll, I mean, that was the first thing that pops up. Nothing good has come out of any of the ones that I found in the few minutes I was sitting here. Can I address what was, oh, my time is up already. I was just going to say what the early childhood program, it makes no sense to me, the not having somebody in charge of it at this point for them, the educational aspect. And I don't honestly believe Dr. Haynes has the background to be working with that as the point person. So maybe that's something else you need to look into. Thank you.
Thank you. If I can just being cognizant of the time, if I can excuse our student representatives so they can get back to studying or sleeping. Thank you as always. Mr. Hidalgo?
Good evening, Ronald Hidalgo, 335 Teaneck Road. After listening to Susan and Janet, I have no words to say. They said everything I wanted to say, including the excellency of Dr. Bender and the waste of money doing the search. I don't know who came up with this idea, but this is a stupid idea, just like returning the $500,000 to a loan that paid no interest. Having a new person coming to this position is going to be exposed to a level of manipulation extraordinary. We all know how things work around here. It's going to be crazy. And having somebody that has been in this district for over 15 years, that knows all the players, that know everybody, knows who's good and who's bad. We have him right there. Ricardo, sorry, Dr. Martinez, President Martinez, you said from the beginning that it's going to be with faith, and you're going to have to make the decision based on what the public wants and what Ridgefield Park wants. The board represents the people. The people want Dr. Bender. You have it right there. You don't have to, you stop the search. You don't have to look for it.
Thank you, Mr. Hidalgo. Mr. DeSantis?
Good evening, everybody. DeSantis, 15 Homestead Place. First, welcome, Dr. Bender. Glad to see you back. Quick compliment on everybody who gave committee reports. They were very thorough, very transparent, and it was good to hear. I think they were delivered well and gave the public a chance to get a real handle on what's going on at that level. As far as the superintendent search, I understand the board has a job to do. Okay, pick the best superintendent. Dr. Bender has, and just speaking for myself, Dr. Bender has shown amazing loyalty to Ridgefield Park, which not by itself should be a reason to be superintendent. But her heart is here. Her heart is here. The board or the district is not in a position to have somebody come in with all that's gone on over the last couple of years and going back a number of years to have somebody learn from scratch. We have a new monitor. We have a director of curriculum. We have a relatively new BA who's doing a very good job. Thank you very much. So as I recognize the board has a responsibility, I also recognize that a wrong has not been righted. I spent a lot of time thinking about this. I should probably get a hobby. It would be much better. And I commend Dr. Bender because you're sitting there putting your all into this. And although this isn't the intention of the board, because you're all good people and I respect you all, but it's also can be conceived as, we want you back, we're glad you're back. The district needs you right now. But we're going to play the field a little bit and see if we can find, we want to be engaged, but we might want to just want to see who's out there. Maybe we should go looking. And that impression comes through too. And I still trust in the board that will do the right thing. I would trust in their ultimate decision. You know, my supporting you did not come with conditions or demands. But I think the consistency, and I think that she hasn't walked away, says a lot. And since Dr. Reitmeyer, who I had the pleasure of working with, this is our first real superintendent. Just want to say Marquez, yes, he kept things, he wasn't a bad superintendent. He just kept things status quo as an acting. So I'd hope the board takes this under consideration. There's community support. Okay, maybe there's some that don't support. That's always going to be, always going to be. But by and large, it's huge community support. And I think we need to just get back on track. That's the most important thing. Someone coming aboard and not knowing history or how the district works will still put us months away, if not longer, from getting on track. So I would hope that you find a way to settle the litigation. I would, on a personal note, hope that Dr. Bender comes back, speaking for myself. And you guys have a tough job. And I just, I hope that you see fit to bring Dr. Bender back permanently, because I don't want you to go away. I don't need to look for another person to be engaged to. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Sanders. Mr. Rafferty?
Thank you, Mr. Martinez. I'm going to speak on what everybody else was speaking on, but I'm going to give you an example. I have a 16-year-old granddaughter who is a sophomore in high school. She has a teacher, Spanish teacher, who has been out, I don't know how many times over the course of this year. They constantly have subs in Spanish that do not speak Spanish. I spoke to a couple of people. I didn't go to the top because I try to get a good feel for inside and some people in charge. And I was told the substitute pool is very light, which goes to the fact that professional educators at this time do not want to work in Ridgefield Park. So I would ask the board to look at this when considering the superintendent search. We have a very ugly situation here in Ridgefield Park between the teachers, superintendent, the whole bit. Every day that we allow our superintendent, Dr. Bender, to work without a contract is sending a message to the qualified teachers that we do have. We have the resignation of more teachers. It's crumbling in front of our eyes. I am begging the board to say, the hell with your search. Settle with Dr. Bender, give her the contract, do whatever we have to do for our children, but please do it now. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Rafferty. Have anyone online to promote?
Hi, good evening.
Good evening.
Maria, 80 Orchard Street. I just have a couple comments. I understand the fan base that Dr. Bender has. However, I've also been aware of the history, some of the history. And to me, when I have to question the integrity of someone, makes me wonder if they should be back. So there's the Blue Ribbon School for Grant School that was questionable on students' tests. Students did say that they were told, given answers for tests. That's number one. From what I understand, also the transportation situation where I don't know how much money was not found was also under her watch. And I am also concerned because there were some material under her website as superintendent, which she was very supportive of, that I think a lot of parents were not aware of in town. And so she was let go, or whatever the situation may have been. So it was taken down once she left. So as much as this new company may not be the best for our district, I don't think that may be necessarily just completely ruling it out. We need new faces. We need people that understand what is going on in the school system and the corruption that is happening. We may need a new set of eyes for that. Sometimes the change is good, as much as we may not like it. And I hope that when the decision is made as to who will come in and who might step in, we can be given also the option to vote or at least know who the candidates would be, so that we can also have a voice, because you represent us. And I feel that as much as we represent us, our voices should be heard on who is going to come into the district and lead our children and our teachers. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Anybody else to promote? Is it Ms. Kessler?
Yes, it is.
Yes. Hi, good evening.
Good. How are you?
I'm good.
I just wanted to let you know that my name is Karen Kessler Jaworowski, 41 South Street, Ridgefield Park, New Jersey. All I know is I'm going to make it short and sweet. Welcome back, Dr. Bender. We all missed you, as you can see. And for the board, I just wanted to let you know that you're making the biggest mistake. I really do have confidence in all you guys. I voted for you guys. and I want it done. Bender stays. Dr. Bender stays. And that's final. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Kessler. You have anyone else to promote? Looks like we have one more.
Good evening.
Ms. Rafferty.
Yes, good evening. Ingrid Raftery, 54 Euclid. I would just like to welcome back Dr. Bender. And like my husband and some other parents and a lot of parents in town said, we really would love for her to have her contract renewed. At this time, I feel maybe for the future, but definitely not right now. It's very concerning to me that so many teachers leave. You do have some great teachers, but I also believe that Dr. Bender has a very open policy with teachers. And to me personally, that's the most important because students should come first. And also, I don't know if I can talk about this now. I always get confused what's on agenda and what's not. But I was very confused when I listened to Mr. Egan. And I don't mean that, I don't mean to criticize him, but you know, I quite didn't understand what he was saying because, you know, when Dr. Haynes started with his preschool program, what's fine with me, I'm not against that. But all of a sudden, there is no assistant director. There is, to my understanding, no director. There's a lot of money involved. With money and the state, I hate to say it, but there comes politics. And that's concerning to me as a taxpayer. I, at this point, believe that the students that we have at the moment in all of our schools should really come first. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Rafferty. Ms. Kelly? Good evening, Ms. Schmidt.
Good evening. Can you hear me?
We can.
Okay, Jennifer Schmidt, 138 Fifth Street. I'll be very, very quick. I just wanted to comment and agree 100% with Jen and the few others about this search firm for the superintendent search, because it's no secret I am not a fan of agendas, especially for lack of a better term, woke agendas, I guess you could say. And I'm literally looking right now and I see this particular firm. This is some kind of Texas scorecard. And the heading is Highland Park ISD residents reject woke superintendent search firm. The unanimous approval of a contract with Hazard Young Atia may be the single worst decision in HPISD school board history. So I share that with you. That's very alarming to me. And I strongly advise that you either find another search firm or don't use one and do what you have to do, but do it a different way. That's it.
Thank you, Ms. Schmidt.
Thank you.
Nobody? Okay. We have one.
Is it okay?
Yep, please.
All right.
Oh, we're still within the hour, so you can leave it open.
Ready?
Yes, please.
John Dwyer, 199 Bergen Turnpike. First, I would like to welcome back Dr. Bender. Very happy to have you back and to see you back in your rightful place. There's nothing more for me to say that hasn't been already said tonight. So with that being said, 9.05, the acting busing coordinator agreement. Can you share what that agreement is? I didn't see an attachment online.
I'll speak to that.
That actually was put on the agenda by mistake. It should not really be there because his acting contract was approved back in November, I think it was. So it inadvertently made its way onto faculty and programs, and I don't know how that happened, but we apologize. It was a mistake.
Okay, because I just wanted to take a moment to acknowledge the responsiveness of Mr. Green. On several occasions, I had to reach out to him for different issues and concerns, and he has always been incredibly responsive, like within minutes. Does the board have any intention on appointing Mr. Green as the full-time busing coordinator, so to say?
The position will have to be advertised.
Okay.
And then he'll need to apply and see how the other candidates, if we receive other candidates, but I'm very, very happy with his performance. So we'll have to just see how, what happens, what kind of response we have when we post the advertisement.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for allowing me to come up.
Thank you. Nobody else? Okay. I guess I'll make a motion to close public comment session.
Second.
I just wanted to make a comment about the qualifications of HYA and the process that we went through to choose this search firm. When the RFP was sent out, as Dr. Martinez stated, 4 firms came back. 2 firms didn't meet the qualifications that we were asking for in the RFP. The other 2 were sent to every member, every non-conflicted board member to rate in essentially 3 broad areas: organization, qualifications, and experience of the firm, proposed approach, and budget. They were further broken down within those categories. Each member of this board unanimously rated HYA higher in all of those broad areas. In addition, I did extensive online searching of all the search firms with districts that they worked with in New Jersey and in other states, to see from directly and not just the ones that they put the recommendations for. I turned up no ill reports of this firm, and I'm pretty aggressive in my searches. I also was particularly impressed with HYA, who is currently doing a superintendent search for Ridgewood. And I would invite the members of the public to look at the Ridgewood Board of Ed website to see just how transparent their process has been for Ridgewood. So, and I hope that this board can model that with the public going forward, that we have that same level of transparency. But I did not find negative reports about HYA, and I did look very extensively.
Thank you. If we can move to resolutions. Mr. Cooney, could you move buildings and grounds?
Sure. Resolutions, buildings and grounds,
You
10.
skipped faculty and programs.
I was going to come back. Trustee Kraft, could you move faculty and programs?
Sure. I move 9:01 to 9:05.
Second.
9:05, are we pulling it off the agenda? 9:05 is the acting busing coordinator. Okay, so I move 9:01 to 9:04.
Second.
Are there any questions on faculty and programs? Resolution 9.01 to 9.04? Seeing none. Mrs. Kraft?
Yes.
Mrs. McNeil?
Yes.
Mr. Cathcart?
Yes.
Mr. Cooney?
Yes.
Mr. Phytros? Oh, I'm
Yes.
sorry, you have to abstain on 9.02.
Yes. Yes on all except for the one I have to abstain from.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Gomes?
Yes.
Mrs. Rodriguez?
Yes.
Ms. Velez?
Yes.
Mrs. Orth?
Yes.
And President Martinez.
Yes.
The resolutions pass.
With your permission, Ms. Kraft, Trustee Cooney, could you move buildings and grounds?
Good. Yes, Buildings and Grounds Resolution 10.01, I so move.
I'll second.
Are there any questions on resolution BG 10.01?
I have a question. Will we ever have to hear the word curtain wall again in this district?
We actually are talking about a ROD grant for the third phase of windows, but for now, I'll say no. Say windows and not curtain wall. Mr. Cooney,
Yes.
Mrs. Kraft,
Yes.
Mr. Cathcart,
Yes.
Mr. Phytros,
Yes.
Mr. Gomes,
Yes.
Mrs. McNeil,
Yes.
Mrs. Rodriguez,
Yes.
Ms. Velez,
Yes.
Mrs. Orth,
Yes.
and President Martinez.
Yes.
Resolution passes.
Finance and Insurance, Trustee Gomes?
I move FI 1101 to FI 1120.
I second.
Are there any questions on resolution FI 11.01 to 11.20?
Kerry, I have a question on 11.06. Why do you have me abstaining on a custodial overtime?
It has to do with personnel.
It says nothing to do with personnel. But I'll call you about it tomorrow.
No, Dave, Dave, you're down for abstaining on payroll,
Abstaining on payroll,
which
right?
is 1105. You are
I'm going
not
to
down.
abstain on all of them.
I mean,
So go ahead, call the roll.
I guess you could, but you don't have to. You're only down for
I'm
abstaining.
going to abstain on all of them.
Okay, that's your right.
And does anyone else have questions?
I just have a comment. I'm celebrating the fact that we're going with frontline education for next year so we can get subs and absences into a more technologically advanced system. So
We
kudos to
actually
the
have it
district
for this
that.
year.
Hooray.
We actually have it for this year. It's just a renewal for next year. Okay, Mr. Gomes,
Yes.
Mrs. Rodriguez,
Yes to all, but I'm an abstention on 1104.
Mr. Cathcart, are you abstaining on all?
Yes, on all.
Mr. Cooney,
Yes.
Mrs. Kraft,
Yes.
Mr. Phytros, you are required to abstain on 11.09 and 11.10.
Okay, yes to everything, of course, unless whatever I have to abstain from.
Okay, thank you.
No problem.
Mrs. McNeil,
Yes.
Ms. Velez,
Yes.
Mrs. Orth,
Yes.
and President Martinez.
Yes.
Resolutions pass.
Trustee Cooney, could you move consent agenda?
Sure. Resolutions consent agenda 12.01. I so move.
I'll second it.
The two of them, motion to amend? Okay. So I'm going to make a motion to amend the consent agenda to approve the Board of Recreation and to table the other resolutions contained inside.
So we need a second on tabling the resolutions, I think it's the resolution for 1202, is it 1202?
1201.
1201.
1201, just on the last two, I believe. It's the church.
No, it's
TS2 and the church.
correct.
Okay, so it's an amendment to table. Right? Yes. To amend the resolution. Okay, so we're voting on amending the resolution. So I have Mr. Cooney as a first, Mr. Cathcart as a second. Mr. Cooney? Vote on.
Yes.
I'm sorry, I'm unclear. The amendment on 1201 is to change it to leave only B, D, and E on the agenda for today?
That's correct.
Okay, so then I second that amendment, and then we have to vote on that amendment.
Correct.
So we have a first, was President Martinez, and who is the second to amend? Okay, for a vote to amend the resolutions, President Martinez,
Yes.
Mrs. McNeil,
Yes.
Mr. Cathcart,
Yes.
Mr. Cooney,
Yes.
Mrs. Kraft,
Yes.
Mr. Fitros, you need to abstain on this. Mr. Gomes,
Yes.
Mrs. Rodriguez,
Yes.
Ms. Velez,
Yes.
and Mrs. Orth.
Yes.
Okay, the amendment to the resolution passes.
So now we'll take a vote on the amended resolution. Yeah, it was already moved. Yes.
Okay, now a vote to adopt the amended resolution. We need a first.
And was the first.
Brian was the first. Okay, and Mr. Cathcart was the second.
Yes.
Okay, Mr. Cooney,
Yes.
Mr. Cathcart,
Yes.
Mrs. Kraft,
Yes.
Mr. Gomes,
Yes.
Mrs. McNeil,
Yes.
Ms. Rodriguez,
Yes.
Ms. Velez,
Yes.
Mrs. Orth,
Yes.
and President Martinez.
Yes. Good personnel. Personnel, trustee Orth.
I so move 1301 to 1310.
Second.
I'll second it.
Can I make a comment? Yep. Yep.
Thank you. I just want to say on 1302, I'm very sorry to see Ms. Vaughn leaving. She was my son's teacher. We love her very much and wish her well and thank her for her service to the district. I'm also a bit disappointed that in the last meeting, we had a young man's name come up and I was hoping to see him back for approval this time, Mr. Silva. We had questions. That's why we didn't approve him at a meeting, but unfortunately, now we're accepting his resignation tonight.
Yes, I would just to, agree that it's a little bit disappointing and sad to see Miss Stephanie von Rudenberg leave our district. And thank you, Dr. Bender, for putting someone in place. Mr. Haynes is an excellent candidate. And also we did have questions. There was like a lot of confusion in terms of the substitute position for the Scarlet Studio Next Chapter program. It's sad that, we just didn't talk about it at the meeting and we weren't given all the information. But I do see that on tonight's agenda that there is a substitute teacher for this Scarlet Studio Next Chapter program. And it's a program for, students that can definitely benefit from that program.
Thank you.
Any other comments or questions? Seeing none, Mrs. Orth,
Yes.
Mr. Cathcart,
Yes.
Mr. Cooney,
Yes.
Mrs. Kraft,
Yes.
Mr. Phytros,
Yes.
Mr. Gomes,
Yes.
Mrs. McNeil,
Yes.
Mrs. Rodriguez,
Yes.
Ms. Velez,
Yes.
and President Martinez.
Yes.
Resolutions pass.
Thank you. We're going to move to citizens' comments off agenda item. We have the portal open. I have Susan DeSantis.
Last week, you had a special meeting to discuss the superintendent search process. I'd like to know where that fell under litigation, personnel, student confidentiality, or negotiations. From my point of view, or from where I'm sitting, the qualifications should have been a public discussion, and any firms interviewed should have been public too. So where does it fall under the 4 executive session qualifications?
Carrie, could you?
I can answer that. It falls under the attorney-client privilege. The board had questions for legal counsel related to the search process and the retention of a search firm.
Shouldn't that have been a public discussion?
Not if they're asking for advice from legal counsel.
Where does the Little Ferry suit stand?
I will stay off of mute and answer that. We received a decision from the administrative law judge, I think last week sometime. The administrative law judge dismissed the petition filed by Ridgefield Park and granted summary decision in favor of Little Ferry. The basis being, generally speaking, an equity issue that the ALJ felt that the boards had negotiated the tentative tuition contract, and they should be bound by the terms of the agreement that they reached in the 18-19 school year. We have some concerns and obviously disagree with the outcome of the ALJ's decision, but as with every ALJ decision, except in the limited circumstance of special education cases, ALJ decisions are recommendations to the commissioner. So the board has authorized legal counsel to file what are called exceptions to that. So basically appealing that decision to the commissioner to point out to the commissioner where we believe the inaccuracies in the ALJ's decision are. So that will be filed within the next week or so.
Where does the teacher's contract stand?
The negotiations is set, I believe, for February 27th. The negotiations committee will be meeting in the next 2 weeks. And then we have a sit down with the RPEA on the 27th.
Okay. Is there a schedule for budget hearings?
Do have them on the calendar, but we're waiting for the budget, for the governor's address to give us state aid. And once we know that, we'll be able to finalize. We have the tentative dates.
Okay, and it'll be published to the public?
Yes.
Okay. Back to the pre-K. Diane Zeman was supposed to get an additional 6 months after the grant was appealed. So Barry Haynes is supervising the pre-K program. Is he pre-K certified? Where Diane Zeman was?
I will refer you to the state monitor.
Mr. Egan?
Hi, yes, the question was Barry Hines, what, qualified?
Is he pre-K certified to run this program? You have somebody pre-K certified. So why after, the Haynes nightmare here running the district, why is he in charge and is he pre-K certified to do this?
My understanding is that the initial request for funding for the following year was signed off on by Barry Hines, and that that issue never came up as to that he was not qualified to. That issue never came up from the state, who okayed and approved the budget that was put in. Once again, that was done before basically I was involved, and I've been dealing with the state since then, and that this issue has never come up.
My understanding is under the grant, you have to have somebody that's pre-K qualified to coordinate the program. Is he pre-K qualified to do this where Diane Zeman was, and she was doing a good job? And she was supposed to get another contract, but of course she didn't because this was punitive. So how are we fulfilling the grant if you don't have a coordinator that's pre-K qualified?
Well, you just stated a lot of facts, which I'll look into, but I don't necessarily agree with the way you're characterized everything. And in my dealings with the state from Trenton, who's coming up with all the funding, they don't seem to have a problem with it. But I will check in tomorrow. I'll make the phone call.
The woman that discussed the testing with Dr. Bender, first of all, the testing in question was not under Dr. Bender. It was when Chris Anarato was superintendent of schools. And when he was principal of Grant School, that was the testing in question. And when he became superintendent, he wouldn't let the state in the building to question the students or to question the staff. So blaming her for it is erroneous. When she became principal, it wasn't under her. It had happened years, the year before when Chris Santarado was principal. That's all I have to say, I think.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Santos.
Oh, I would like to say that I've heard student discipline, the attendance and late policy is back and being enforced. And I think that that's great because the students also need discipline and structure. So thank you for that.
Thank you, Mr. Santos. Janet Malou.
Janet Malul, 163 East Grand Ave. I was actually pleasantly surprised. You know, I'm always complaining about the traffic on the Hill. Dr. Bender reached out to me her first week back and said, how is the traffic on the Hill at 3:30? And I started watching and looking out my window. And I guess in coordination with PD, they are now letting groups down at a time. So maybe 10 cars go down. There's a lull for about 3 minutes because it was literally timing it. You'll see the cars coming up the other end, and then you see the cars coming, the next batch of parents coming down. I have no idea what kind of a mess it's creating uphill. I really don't care, but I can finally get out of my driveway and cross the street without taking my life in my hands. So thank you for looking into that right away. Michelle, I looked up Ridgewood, and you're right, they're using them. And if you look at it, it gives you all the steps that I, as an educator and having sat on superintendent search committees through my career, would have wanted to do, but they haven't hired anybody yet. The candidates are first going to be interviewed, from what the article said. So I personally would reserve judgment on how well that goes until after I see who they're bringing to the table.
I was just speaking to the process.
Yeah.
Being
Okay,
transparent.
process, yes. But, and there are actually several districts because I just started Googling them. And I know Homedale parents are having a fit, or a community are having a fit over the candidates that were chosen, and I think there's another town where they just put somebody in place after 16 months though. So I guess my other concern is how this process is going to play out. And my other question is, if Dr. Bender's contract ends in June, that's what, 3-4 months away? You're going to really have somebody in place to take over at that point? Or are we back to Dr. Haynes as an interim and we go through that mess again? Like what is the plan if your search doesn't match up with the time her contract ends and you're not extending it, or, you know, even on a temporary basis?
So the first step in this process is to come up with a timetable for the superintendent search. If it does go over, we will have to look at that as a board. We will know well in advance, I think, if we are not going to make that deadline.
Okay, and so in other words, you haven't discussed what happens if that deadline can't be met?
Well, our attorney has given us the different options. And
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, thank you.
you, Ms. Malou. You have anybody who needs to be promoted? Come. Yep.
Hello, I'm Candy Ramba, teacher at Grand School. But I just wanted to mention about Frontline, which is great for us. I am the sub coordinator for the past few years, which used to be in 6 o'clock in the morning. Hello, can you come to school for, you know, Donna Gerard or whoever's not in that day? Sorry, Donna, just using a name that came to my head. So this is a great change because the teachers can go in themselves. But just having this doesn't mean we're going to have more substitutes, because it's just the substitutes we have that we input into our computer. So I'm still working with Rich Ciora. I still have duties to do because we have workshops that are half days, so I have to put them in, because if you put them in regularly, you'll have two different people. They won't know that there's a second half to the workshop that day. But I have spoken to Dr. Bender about reaching out to some of the local colleges and the education departments and seeing if we can put something out to their education teachers, education students, excuse me, to see if they'd be interested in subbing, because the pool is very, I think we've got one more person I saw coming on, but it's also who doesn't want to work at the high school, who can only work Tuesdays. Even the college students are only available then when their semester changes. So Frontline is a great step up. I mean, it's helping me, and it's probably going to push me out eventually, but right now they still need me. But I am going to try and get in touch with some of the local colleges and try and draw on that, because I noticed that all districts are having trouble getting substitutes. And I don't know, they're making a lot of money. I'm like saying, why do you care which school you're making $150, just come to work? So I just wanted to reach out to that just using the electronic isn't changing what we have. We're just inputting the people that we do have already. And hopefully we'll get more. So thank you for your support.
I just wanted to mention about Frontline that substitutes that are employed in other districts will have access to see openings in Ridgefield Park. And if they want to apply, they can. The other, it's not just an advantage to us in terms of substitutes, it gives employees access to their absence balances and to book a substitute in advance. So there are other.
Yes, it's great doing it ahead of time and planning things when like I said, I'm doing workshops. So I've been doing workshops from September that are going to be in March. So I've been booking people for those days already. And like you said, I didn't even know on the app, I didn't know how many days I had. I came up like, oh, wow, I have all these sick days. So it's a great way, because not everybody is aware of what they have, sick days and such personal days and stuff. So it is a great, we also use it for our SGOs, the educational component of it too, which is great.
Right.
Thank you.
It's also my understanding that some of the other districts pay much more than we do for substances.
Yes, some do.
Yes, please.
Ms. Ramba, thank you for the reminder. My affiliation with Ramapo College Teacher Education Program. I know that the students will leave in May, and hopefully that's the busy time of the year, I know, for us. And I will reach out to them sooner than later. I just got to get back into the groove. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have somebody to promote? Hi, Ms. Schmidt.
Hello. Jennifer Schmidt again, 138 Fifth Street. I just have a quick question. Can we get a explanation at all as to why some of the use of facilities requests have been tabled? Is there a reason? I mean, there has to be a reason.
Yes, there's a reason. The policy committee had been working very diligently to come up with an equitable use of facilities policy. Right now, our policy and our practices don't always match up. And so some of these requests were pretty significant in terms of the time. And so we would like to discuss it more. Now, we are meeting again in, I believe, 2 weeks. Yeah, so the next board meeting is the 1st. And so that allowed the board a little more time to fix this policy.
Okay, and was it was the, which ones weren't tabled, if you recall?
The Board of Ed ones, the Board of Recreation.
The Board of Recreation weren't tabled.
Those went through, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else to promote? We have somebody from the audience.
Hi, I'm Michael Lingle. I am the musical director here at RPHS. I just wanted to remind everybody that the play is in 2 weeks. So it's March 2nd, March 3rd, and March 4th. So right now we have 28 students in the cast. We have about 30 doing the crew. And Right now, we're in the midst of 2 more weeks and we are doing our ad program for the program. So if you have any businesses or if you want to just put in a good luck advertisement to the students, you could email me at mlingo@rpschools.net. I have the prices for you. It's $30 for a fourth of a page, $50 for half a page, $75 for a full page. We also have an Instagram account. If you need to DM me, it's at ridgefieldpark.theater. You could, it's fun.
Can you repeat those two contact?
Yeah, so my email is mlingle, so MLINGLE @rpschools.net. And then my Instagram or the theater page's Instagram is ridgefieldpark.theater. Thank you. I just wanted to remind the public and get everything. Yeah,
I'm sorry, Mr. Lingo.
It's okay.
March 2nd, 3rd, and 4th.
Yeah, March
What's-
2nd,
what
3rd,
time?
7.
7 PM, all three?
Yep,
Right.
all three at
Okay,
7.
Thank you.
Mr. Lingle, when are the tickets going to be available?
So the tickets should be available starting Wednesday of next week. They're getting printed at Staples currently. They'll be available in the guidance office, and then you could purchase them at the door.
Is it going to be good?
Yes, do you know our students? Come on.
Yes, I know. Thank you.
Thank you.
We have one person to promote. Hi, Ms. Santana. Ms.
Hi,
Santana.
good evening, everyone.
Hello.
Hi. So I wanted to start off by welcoming back Dr. Bender. It's good to see you, and I hope you do what you do best and lead the entire district in the right direction, as we hope that you will do. And I also wanted to take this opportunity and give Mrs. Hernandez from Grant School a shout out this evening, because I have now been PTA president for Grant School. This is my 2nd year. And I have to say, from day one, Mrs. Hernandez has been an amazing leader for Grant School. I call her the captain of the ship because she does excellent work. And I have to just really give her a standing ovation, because from the beginning, I felt welcomed. And being a new PTA president, signing up for that task is, as if you've done it, it's not easy. And having support makes all the difference in the world. And I really am proud of Grant School PTA. With every year, we keep raising our numbers, our members, which, as we all know, it takes a village, and the more parents are involved, the better. And we've been able to really have some interesting events. And with every year, I hope to make these events bigger and better for the students of Grant School. And I also want to give a shout out to all the PTAs, because I see you, I hear you, and keep doing what you're doing. And if any parent here is not part of a PTA, I really urge you and encourage you to be part of the PTAs, because honestly, it really does make a difference for our kids. I can't tell you how many times I walk down those hallways, and of course, I'm biased with my own daughter. And when I see her, she has this joy on her face, and it's a beautiful thing. It's a beautiful thing for her to experience. And even for myself as a mom, it's beautiful to see how much joy she gets when she sees me, and then all her fellow classmates and the other children of schools. Our presence as parents makes an impact every single day that we decide to raise our hands. And it may not be your season in terms of, actively being there during the day, but even just becoming a member of the PTA really does make a difference. And thank you, everybody on the board, because again, we are all trying to do the best we can for our kids. And I hope that we continue to have a good year. And may the rest of this year be even better than what it's been. And I know we're not perfect, but no school district is. But as long as we always remember to work together, that is the key to this, everybody. Please don't forget that we're here to work together. So that's all. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you for the lovely words, Ms. Santana. Could you give us your address too?
Oh, so sorry. 101 Hobart Street.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
No one else? Okay. I just want to make a brief comment about, this board is listening to the public. I assure you that your words move us. We're not always going to agree, and there are some tough times to come ahead in cleaning up some of the things that have happened in this district. But I can vouch for every person on this board. We're listening. We read the emails. We listen to you at the podium. Text messages, Instagram. Like we talk a lot amongst ourselves about the comments and the information that we get from the public. So we are listening. We're going to move on to new business. Trustee Gomes, can you move finance and insurance?
Yes. I move FI 1601.
Second.
We muted Dave.
So why is Omar sneezing like a baby? Because
I'm just going to read the new business resolution on finance and insurance. Resolved that the Ridgefield Park Board of Education, upon the recommendation of the business administrator and the superintendent of schools, approves the following special education out-of-district placement for the 2022-23 school year. Thank you.
I guess we took a first and second. Okay. Mr. Gomes,
Yes.
Mrs. McNeil,
Yes.
Mr. Cathcart,
Yes.
Mr. Cooney,
Yes.
Mrs. Kraft,
Yes.
Mr. Phytros, you have to abstain on this one. Mrs. Rodriguez,
Yes.
Ms. Velez,
Yes.
Mrs. Orth,
Yes.
and President Martinez.
Yes.
Mr. Cathcart? With it?
Yes.
Thank you.
She ready? Okay. So on new business for personnel, resolved that the Board of Education, on the recommendation of the superintendent of schools, the state monitor hereby approves and extends all currently running grant-funded programs and currently approved staff from March 1st to May 12th, 2023. Trustee Orth, if you can move that. Okay, sorry. Second one is resolved that the Board of Education, on the recommendation of the superintendent of schools, approves the appointment of Susan Amadia to the position of building level program coordinator. She will receive $56.38 per hour outside of contractual hours to be paid for from grant funds. Now, Ms.
I so move 1701 and 1702.
I second.
Are there any questions on 1701 and 1702?
Yes, Dr. Bennett, if you could just explain these two resolutions, since they're a little bit vague.
Yes, thank you. These are programs that began prior to me coming back. They include SEL after-school enrichment sessions, mentoring programs, homework hotline, and the reason why also Title III, Title 1 and 4, ELA Math and Science, high school extended day programs, elementary. The reason why they are new business is I want to clarify that they began, and being unfamiliar with them, I felt that I had to do my due diligence and figure out how we were paying for them before I extended the program. So there are a lot of teachers involved in this. If you go back to the original resolution, you will see those staff members that are involved. Again, I wanted to be safe than sorry, even though it's federally funded funds. I just wanted to make sure that we were okay with everything. So I know that it might seem a little vague, but it is in reference to an earlier resolution. And they are great programs, and I wanted to make sure they ran again. Thank you.
Thank you. Yep, thank you.
Okay, Mrs. Orth,
Yes.
Mrs. Rodriguez,
Yes.
Mr. Cathcart,
Yes.
Mr. Cooney,
Yes.
Mrs. Kraft,
Yes.
Mr. Phytros,
Yes.
Mr. Gomes,
Yes.
Mrs. McNeil,
Abstain from 1701 and yes on 1702.
Ms. Velez,
Yes.
um, a- and President Martinez.
Yes. I guess that ends new business. Can I get a motion to adjourn?
I move we adjourn.
I second.
Thank you, everybody.